Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Battlefield 101. In this episode we're going to continue our feature on tank play, specifically having a look at the perks available to the gunner while in a tank. But before we get into that, I just want to have a quick look at the engineer. Now if you've got any inclination at all to be the driver or gunner in a tank, LAV or flying helicopters, the engineer class has got to be the go-to class to go to. Obviously because you get access to the repair tool, which means you can facilitate repairs while in the field. But too many people forget to change their upgrades. Now on the engineer class, once you unlock it, you play engineer enough and accrue enough points, you can unlock the mechanic upgrade. And just have a quick look at what it says. Even if you don't upgrade the skill tree while in game up to the level 4, at basic level, the thing you'll always have is level 1 fast repair, which boosts repair speed by 35%. So, as I said, if you've got any inclination at all to be the driver or gunner in a tank, LAV or fly helicopters, this has got to be the most sensible perk for you to select before you start out. So here we are, we're going to test out the proximity scan. This was a go-to perk on Battlefield 3 because it helped prevent you from being attacked from behind and the sides where you weren't looking by C4 runners, which is just as big a problem, if not more so, on Battlefield 4. I slowed down the footage to a quarter speed because I want to highlight just how close an enemy opposition can get before the proximity scan, which is the perk we're testing, can get. And there we go, he's within a few strides of the rear of the tank, and this footage is down to a quarter speed, so I'll show you what it looks like at full speed in a moment. But within a couple of strides he's able to get underneath the rear of the tank, and that's with me looking in that direction. If I'd have been facing forwards or in the opposite direction, by the time I know that enemy opposition is there while looking at the mini-map, they're already underneath us. So I'm just wanting to illustrate just how really weak the proximity scan is, and it's far more important that the driver and gunner are aware of their surroundings and scanning and spotting the entire time, as we showed in the previous episode. Particularly on the gunner, because if the driver is focused on moving from objective to objective or is in the middle of combat, it really is important that the gunner is on their toes and looking around, looking for threats. And here's what that looks like at full speed. You can see just how quickly the enemy opponent is able to get right next to the tank, potentially drop C4 before we've even had a chance to react. So if proximity scan isn't all it's cracked up to be, it becomes even more important for both gunner and driver to be constantly scanning the surroundings and spotting gunner in particular, because the driver may be focused on combat or driving from objective to objective looking for mines, etc, etc. Now we do know that the 50 cal machine gun that the gunner has access to on the tank isn't the most damaging item in the world. It doesn't really equate to what it's capable of in real life. However, there is another perk available to the gunner in the tank once you've unlocked it that really will help you out in taking out those pesky C4 runners. And this is the incendiary grenade available to the gunner once you've accrued enough points in tanks to have unlocked it. Much like an incendiary grenade that is available to the regular soldiers, it fires out a canister which explodes on contact with a surface and sets out a large flame, except this is much more powerful than the incendiary grenade and has a far bigger radius. And what you do is, once you've equipped it in your customization options, is you'll press Y or use your D-pad to select it as a secondary, and it will fire out in any direction that you happen to be facing at the time. So if you're looking behind the vehicle, that's the way it will fire. If you're looking forwards or left or right, it will fire in the direction that the machine gun is facing. In my opinion, this is a far more useful tool than the proximity scan, because remember, even if you spot an enemy using the proximity scan, and we saw how limited the radius was, it still leaves you with the added problem of having to deal with them somehow, whether that be the gunner or the driver. And you may have an awful lot of problems to deal with. You may be in the middle of a very large firefight, so I believe that this is a much more useful perk. So I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Battlefield 101, and I will see you the next time around.